Brené Brown, Daring Greatly, How the Courage to be Vulnerable Transforms the Way We Live, Love, Parent, and Lead. In today's era of performance-driven society and social media domination, our fear of not being enough and the overwhelming expectations placed upon us often lead to feelings of shame and disconnection. Brené Brown's book, Daring Greatly, delves into how embracing vulnerability can transform the way we live, love, parent, and lead. By understanding the fundamentals of vulnerability and its connection to courage, empathy, and connection, we can appreciate the importance of cultivating a culture of vulnerability, both personally and professionally, to lead richer and more engaged lives.
Breaking free from shame. We all experience shame, rooted in a fundamental human need for connection, love, and belonging. As social creatures, our survival depends on our connections with others. Shame stems from the belief that we are unworthy of this love and connectedness. It holds us back from trying new things, expressing ourselves, and presenting our work. When we attach our self-worth to others' opinions, we risk becoming paralyzed by shame. Research consistently shows that shame has no positive effects and only leads to destructive behavior. Acknowledging our inherent worthiness encourages us to be brave and take chances, ultimately freeing ourselves from shame's grip. As humans, our need for connection, love, and belonging is deeply ingrained in our psyche. Being part of a group has been essential to our survival throughout history. Neuroscience supports this notion, showing that social disconnection causes genuine pain, reinforced by our brain chemistry. Shame arises from the belief that we don't deserve the love and connection we crave. Consequently, we may never feel satisfied, no matter what we do or achieve in life. For instance, when we share our creations with others, we often attach our self-worth to their reactions to our work. This fear of criticism and rejection can hold us back. The detrimental effects of shame prevent us from taking risks, expressing ourselves openly, and connecting with others. This isolating emotion leaves us feeling unworthy and hesitant to embrace new opportunities. Research conducted by the author and other experts reveals that shame hinders our ability to grow, leading only to negative and destructive behaviors. In essence, shame has no positive impacts on our lives. While experiencing shame once in a while is a natural human emotion, the pervasiveness of shame-related behavior in our society is troubling. Embracing our inherent worthiness and cultivating courage to take risks can liberate us from the stifling grip of shame, enabling us to connect more authentically with ourselves and others. Escaping never-enough culture. In today's society, never-enough culture permeates our lives through constant comparisons and competition, leading to feelings of scarcity and shame. This mindset arises from past traumatic events and our desire to shield ourselves from life's uncontrollable misfortunes. The core issue is falsely believing that by accumulating more and constantly improving ourselves, we can avoid vulnerability. Instead, we must embrace our vulnerability by confronting these feelings, to break the cycle of shame and disengagement. Our modern world, saturated with social media, constantly draws us to showcase our lives in public forums. This leads to feelings of envy and fuels the notion that we're perpetually lacking, whether it be materially or in personal accomplishments. This never-enough mindset stems from a combination of past traumatic events and our subconscious attempts to protect ourselves from life's uncertainties. Traumatic experiences such as 9/11, random acts of violence, and natural disasters have contributed to the pervasive fear of not having enough. Rather than healing from these traumas, a scarcity mindset takes over, causing us to numb our fear by acquiring more things or endlessly striving to improve ourselves. However, this coping mechanism is built on the false premise that by doing so, we can shield ourselves from the uncontrollable aspects of life. This never-enough thinking creates a cycle of comparison, shame, and disengagement. We often compare ourselves to celebrities, wealthy individuals, or even idealized versions of our past selves, setting unattainable standards. These comparisons nurture feelings of shame, which in turn instill the overwhelming and irrational fear of being unworthy of human connection. In response, we disengage from personal growth because we believe improvement will never be enough. To combat this destructive cycle, we must find ways to overcome shame by embracing vulnerability. By facing and processing our emotions rather than numbing them, we can break free from the never-enough culture and find authentic connection with ourselves and others. Embracing our vulnerability. Despite the common belief that vulnerability is negative and associated with failure, it is actually a neutral concept that allows us to experience emotions, both positive and negative. Vulnerability, which involves uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, is crucial for experiencing love, joy, and empathy. Embracing vulnerability demonstrates courage and strength, rather than weakness. By recognizing the importance of vulnerability in our lives and accepting it, we can foster meaningful connections and benefit both our personal and professional lives. In a world that often values success and strength over emotional connection, vulnerability tends to be viewed with skepticism. However, a deeper understanding reveals that vulnerability is an essential part of our emotional experiences. Not limited to just negative emotions, vulnerability is also the driving force behind love, joy, and empathy. Vulnerability, defined by uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, requires courage to embrace. For instance, when the author faced her fears and spoke publicly about her research, she displayed bravery by opening herself up to potential criticism. By acknowledging vulnerability, she demonstrated strength rather than weakness. The desire for love and connection is universal, and recognizing the role of vulnerability in fostering these emotions is paramount. Accepting and embracing vulnerability can lead to stronger connections and growth in various aspects of our lives, both personally and professionally. Harnessing the power of vulnerability. Although vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, it is an essential part of our humanity. By embracing our vulnerability, we can foster both professional and personal growth. Opening up to others allows for authentic emotional experiences and empathy, leading to deeper connections. In our careers, taking risks and exposing ourselves to potential criticism help us learn and improve. Acknowledging our vulnerability can also help prevent us from becoming susceptible to outside influences. To fully embrace vulnerability, it's important to address and overcome feelings of shame. Vulnerability might be perceived as an undesirable trait, but it's inextricably woven into the fabric of our being. So, why not harness its power in positive and productive ways? By embracing vulnerability, we pave the way for both personal and professional growth. Socially, vulnerability permits us to authentically experience emotions and empathize with others, fostering connections. Being open and honest creates a reciprocal environment where trust and communication thrive. Our most profound connections are often rooted in moments of vulnerability, where empathy and shared experiences come together. In the realm of professional development, growth comes from embracing risks and welcoming the possibility of criticism. Sticking to what we know keeps us in a safe comfort zone, but it also stifles growth. Facing potential failure means that we're stepping out of that zone and exploring new territories. In doing so, we learn, improve, and advance. Ignoring vulnerability can have unintended consequences, such as making us more susceptible to external influences. This counterintuitive effect was shown in a study where participants who believed they were immune to persuasive advertising actually responded more strongly to the ads than those who acknowledged their vulnerability. To truly tap into the transformative power of vulnerability, we must tackle the emotion that often combats it, shame. By addressing and overcoming shame, we can fully embrace vulnerability as a powerful instrument for personal and professional growth in our lives. Conquering shame through empathy. Shame, the fear of self-exposure, often holds immense power over us, leading to feelings of isolation and self-criticism. However, by verbalizing our shame and fostering self-compassion, we can diminish its influence on our lives. Sharing our vulnerability allows others to empathize and connect with us, replacing shame with feelings of understanding and acceptance. Embracing resilience to shame is the first step toward a more engaged, connected life. Shame is a powerful emotion that can leave us reeling and wishing for the earth to swallow us whole. It thrives in secrecy, drawing strength from our reluctance to share our fears and failures with others. What makes shame so potent is the intense pain it can evoke, often overshadowing the very thing that we're ashamed of. So, how do we fight against shame and regain control? Begin by speaking up. Addressing our feelings of shame and giving voice to our vulnerabilities can significantly lessen their grip on us. Doing so not only makes us more resilient to shame's effects but also allows others to empathize with our experiences, creating a sense of understanding and connection. Unfortunately, our natural instinct is to conceal our shame. We often serve as our worst critics, keeping a stash of shame-inducing memories to torment ourselves with privately. Rather than wallowing in these emotions, cultivating self-compassion enables us to weather the storm of shame without feeling crushed. We emerge from these difficult situations with more courage and engagement, thus becoming shame-resilient. Shame resilience allows us to experience empathy in moments when we expected shame. As other people's judgments fuel shame, fostering open dialogue and exposing our vulnerabilities can have a transformative effect on our relationships and emotional well-being. In turn, the empathy we receive replaces shame with acceptance, lightening our mental load and promoting a sense of relief. Overcoming shame is the first critical step in embracing vulnerability and living a life of deeper connections and engagements. By breaking our silence and fostering empathy, we can conquer this powerful emotion and begin our journey towards true emotional freedom. Embracing our vulnerability. As humans, we often strive for more, believing that success can shield us from pain and disappointment, when in fact, vulnerability is an innate part of our existence. Hiding behind destructive patterns like perfectionism, numbing ourselves with substances, or fearing joy prevents us from authentically connecting with others and fully experiencing happiness. By recognizing that we're enough as we are, we can embrace vulnerability and foster stronger relationships at work, school, and home. We all yearn for self-improvement and abundance, stemming from the desire to protect ourselves from the potential harm of life's challenges. While we hope to vanquish vulnerability, this emotional state is an intrinsic part of our humanity that we can't escape. Unsettled by our vulnerabilities, we attempt to veil them not only from others but also from ourselves. Such concealment takes place through perfectionism, fearing happiness, and numbing our emotions with addictive substances. We counter joyful experiences with thoughts of misfortune as a defense mechanism, shielding us from the risks that joy may bring. Similarly, chasing perfection becomes our armor against failure, even though it's a futile and unrealistic pursuit. However, authentic self-awareness and growth can only happen when we acknowledge our vulnerabilities and accept ourselves as enough. Letting go of the unattainable goal of perfection enables us to confront criticism or failure without allowing it to define us. Embracing the worthiness of happiness fosters gratitude, rather than fear of imaginary catastrophes. By being content with who we are and what we possess, we can expose our vulnerabilities and remove the masks that ultimately cause more harm than good. This authenticity allows us to truly connect with others, creating nurturing environments at work, school, and home. By embracing vulnerability, we can cultivate more genuine relationships and find joy in the present moment. Shame's impact on productivity. Common motivational strategies like benchmarking and public shaming may seem effective in pushing individuals towards desired goals, but these methods can actually harm productivity. Shame causes disengagement, which in turn stifles creativity, innovation, and learning. This affects everyone from students in school to employees at work. To foster a more fruitful environment and promote personal growth, institutions should focus on alternative motivational strategies that encourage vulnerability. We all know that feeling of counting down the minutes until the day is over, whether it's in a classroom or at work. Does this stem from shame-driven motivational strategies that are ingrained into our environment? Let's dive a bit deeper. When we're exposed to public shaming, we become disconnected from our surroundings and lose motivation. We might not work as hard or even fully withdraw. Our natural response is disengagement, which greatly hampers creativity, innovation, and learning in both educational and professional settings. Think about it, would a school without creativity be successful? It's unlikely. Independent thought, asking questions, and producing unique ideas are essential aspects of learning and personal growth. Students need the freedom to think outside the box if they are to thrive. Similarly, businesses can't remain competitive without constant innovation. Adapting to the ever-evolving marketplace and creating new products are crucial for a company's survival. When shame-based motivations hinder employees' capacity to innovate, the entire organization suffers. Considering these harmful effects, it's crucial for companies and schools to move away from shame-driven tactics and adopt more encouraging alternatives. One way to establish a healthier environment is by fostering vulnerability, allowing individuals to express themselves openly without fear of humiliation. This promotes a culture of trust, where people feel secure in sharing their ideas and taking risks. By prioritizing vulnerability and empathy over fear-based motivation, we can create spaces where creativity, innovation, and learning can flourish. This approach sets the stage for happier, more engaged individuals who can excel at work, school, and in life. So let go of the shame, and embrace an environment where everyone thrives and succeeds together. Embracing vulnerability together. Society's transformation begins with engaged individuals, be it employers, teachers, or parents, who can instill a culture of vulnerability. Shame culture, prevalent in workplaces and schools, often displays people's failures publicly, humiliating them. This culture, however, can be replaced with one that embraces vulnerability, making people feel worthy and open. Influential leaders hold the power to rehumanize education and work, and can set examples of addressing their own problems and asking for help. As a result, an atmosphere of trust can be cultivated, where vulnerability is celebrated and utilized to improve both professional and personal environments. Addressing shame culture and promoting vulnerability can lead to a more successful and harmonious society. Cultivating worthiness and resilience. To ensure our children lead engaged, connected lives, we must instill the principles of worthiness and vulnerability in them. Children's experiences of shame can leave lasting impacts on their lives. By creating a shame-free, loving environment and teaching shame resilience, we promote their sense of belonging and self-worth. Ultimately, our commitment to embracing our own worthiness serves as the foundation for fostering a healthy, supportive atmosphere for our children to grow in, benefiting everyone in the long run. As we strive for the best for our children, one crucial step is to teach them the principles of worthiness and vulnerability. This begins with understanding that childhood experiences involving shame can have traumatic and long-lasting effects. Reflecting on our own memories of shame can shed light on this issue and reinforce the importance of preventing such incidents for our children. In contrast, when children do not encounter shame, they tend to feel an innate sense of worthiness. They know they are loved unconditionally and that they belong. For our children to develop such a strong foundation, it is essential to create a shame-free home environment where they can be their authentic selves. A primary step in achieving this atmosphere is by teaching children shame resilience. As parents, we must not only be involved and engaged in their lives, but also fully embrace our own worthiness. This responsibility calls for parents to act as role models, embodying and practicing the values of worthiness they wish their children to learn, rather than merely preaching them. By accepting our own self-worth, we pave the way for our children to understand their inherent worth as well. This quality cannot be passed on unless the parent possesses it first. Acting on these principles of engaged parenting and fostering a culture of worthiness and shame resilience has far-reaching effects. Together, we can build a more supportive, resilient community that positively influences our children, friends, family, and colleagues, leading to better lives for all.
Brené Brown's Daring Greatly highlights the significance of vulnerability in unlocking the key ingredients for a fulfilled life. Instead of succumbing to shame driven by societal expectations and fear, Embracing vulnerability can empower us to live with authenticity, connect in meaningful ways with others, and foster resilience. By reshaping the way we see vulnerability and its potential impact on our lives, we can transform the way we bring up our children, drive professional growth, and encourage personal development. Through her work, Brown illuminates the importance of vulnerability as a path to cultivate a sense of worthiness, empathy, and courage in our personal and professional lives.